Today we're going to dive into the incredible life of Nelson Mandela, told in his very own words from his autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom. We're going to follow his journey, a journey that took him from being a political prisoner to becoming the first democratically elected president of South Africa. It's an amazing story about the ideas that can truly change the world.
And really, it all comes down to this one powerful question. See, Mandela's story isn't just about him. It's about how that deep, personal hunger for freedom can spark a movement that reshapes an entire nation and, honestly, inspires the whole world. So let's get into how he did it.
All right, so to understand the man, you first got to understand the world that made him. And the world he was born into, well, it was a world built on a foundation of division and just brutal oppression.
That system had a name: apartheid. It was a cold, calculated, legal system designed from the ground up to separate people by race and to keep the white minority in power. This wasn't just some social prejudice, This was the law of the land.
In his own words, Mandela called it an extraordinary human disaster. But what's so important is that second part of what he said, this belief that out of all that terrible suffering, something incredible, something beautiful could be born. That hope, right there, that was the fuel for the entire struggle.
So where did this famous hunger for freedom even come from? Well, for Mandela, it wasn't like a switch just flipped. It was an evolution. His whole idea of what freedom even was changed so much over the course of his life.
You might find this surprising, but Mandela wasn't born a revolutionary. He says that as a kid, in his village, he thought he was totally free. His whole world was about these simple, natural things, like running through the fields or swimming in the local stream.
And you can literally see his idea of freedom grow up with him. As a boy, it was all about that physical freedom. Then, as a student, it became about personal stuff, being able to stay out late. But as he became a man, he started to see that those were just illusions. The real hunger, the deep one, was for the basic freedom of all his people.
And that is the turning point. The moment his desire for freedom shifted from I to we. That desire for everyone to be free is what turned him from just a regular, even scared young man into the fearless leader the world would come to know. It literally changed everything.
And that incredible transformation? It all led to this one single day, the climax of the entire story, May 10th, 1994, the day that South Africa, and in many ways the world, changed forever.
I mean, the sheer scale of this day was just staggering. You had leaders from over 140 countries all gathered there to witness it. This just shows you it wasn't just a win for South Africa, it felt like a victory for all of humanity.
And the location? Wow, the symbolism was just off the charts. It was held at the Union Buildings in Pretoria, which for decades had been the absolute center of apartheid power. And now Mandela called it a rainbow gathering. What a perfect way to describe the vision for a new, inclusive South Africa.
Just stop and think about this for a second. The top generals of the South African military, the same institution that locked him up and enforced apartheid, were now lining up to salute him as their new president.
And of course, Mandela himself was completely aware of the incredible irony. He knew that just a few years before, the very same men saluting him would have been the ones to arrest him. It's such a stark, powerful image of how much things had truly changed. The whole day was filled with these amazing symbols of unity. Get this, they sang two national anthems. Die Stem, the anthem of the old white government, and Nkosi Sikelel' iAfrika, the anthem of the liberation movement. Mandela later wrote that at that moment, neither group really knew the other's song, but it was a promise that soon they'd both know them by heart.
So yeah, the inauguration was way more than just a ceremony. It was a promise. It was Mandela laying out a brand new, bold vision for the future of his country.
He made it crystal clear that winning the vote wasn't the end of the fight. He said achieving political emancipation was really just the beginning. The next, even bigger struggle was to free every single person from poverty, from suffering, and from any kind of discrimination.
And then he delivered this absolutely iconic line, a powerful, deliberate promise that the horrors of the past would never, ever be repeated. The way he repeats never, it just gives you chills. It gives it so much weight.
But even on this day of incredible triumph, Mandela's thoughts were also on the past. He knew, better than anyone, that this freedom had come at a massive, massive cost.
He didn't see himself as some lone hero. In his own words, he felt he was simply the sum of all those African patriots who had fought and died before he ever did. He felt this deep, profound debt to all the people whose sacrifices made that day even possible.
And he made a point to say their names, heroes like Oliver Tambo and Walter Cicely. By speaking their names out loud, he was making sure that their legacies would never be forgotten in the victory they fought so hard for.
This is such a deep reflection. Mandela basically suggests that the terrible cruelty of apartheid had this unintended side effect. It forged people of incredible courage and wisdom. He's arguing that sometimes it's the greatest hardships that create the greatest people.
And this really gets to the core of what he believed. South Africa is famous for its diamond mines, but for Mandela, the real treasure was always its people. This wasn't just a nice-sounding line. It was the entire foundation of his vision for the new nation.
In his book, Mandela talks about this idea of twin obligations. The idea that every one of us is pulled in two directions. We have a duty to our family and friends, and we have a duty to our community and our country. But under apartheid, he explained, it was literally impossible for a black person to fulfill both.
And that leaves us with a final, really powerful question that we can all think about. Mandela was forced to choose his people over his own family. For us, in our own lives, that challenge is still there. How do we find that right balance between our personal world and our commitment to the world around us? It's a question that Mandela's long walk to freedom really asks of all of us.